My friends, if you think about the average Russian soldier, you might imagine someone like Ivan with his rusted AK and 2 weeks of training. Still, looking at the videos of the Russian army getting blown up by drones, you should not forget that this was not always the case. The Russian army is huge and many of its units are handpicked and have gathered experience in countless conflicts. Today, we're talking about one of those special forces, the Russian Marines. Since the beginning of the Russian Empire, it has relied on its naval forces to project power across the seas. Among these forces, the Russian naval infantry stands out as one of the most elite and feared units, known as the Black Berets. This force is responsible for Russia's amphibious operations, landing on foreign shores, securing key positions, and carrying out critical missions. From the shores of Crimea to the Mediterranean, the Russian naval infantry has been at the forefront of Russia's military actions. But their most difficult operations came with Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022. As is tradition, let's start with a short history lesson. Russian Marines are as old as the Russian Navy. The first official Marine regiment was established during the Great Northern War under Peter the Great. He was the person who established the Russian Empire, and Navy was always his main passion project. As the Russian Empire conquered more territories, the Marines were often used to take coastal fortifications. When the Russian Empire fought against Ottomans in Ukraine, they used naval infantry to take the Black Sea ports around Odessa and Crimea. During the Napoleonic Wars, the naval infantry conducted its first long-range operations, landing troops in Naples and conquering the island of Corfu as its naval base. They were also deployed to land battles like Borodino and Kulm. By the mid-19th century, the naval infantry had largely been absorbed into the regular army. It wasn't until the Crimean War in 1854 that their importance was rediscovered. Russian forces formed new naval battalions to defend Sevastopol against British, French and Ottoman forces. Following the Russian Revolution and the Civil War, Soviet forces re-established the naval infantry. They played a major role in defending Petrograd and the Black Sea during the conflict. During World War II, over 350,000 Marines fought in land operations, defending cities like Stalingrad, Leningrad and Sevastopol. They conducted 4 major operations, 2 during the Battle of the Kerch Peninsula, 1 during the Caucasus campaign and 1 in the Baltics, where they conquered the island of Saaremaa in Estonia, my home. Between 1947 and 1961, the naval infantry was deactivated. But as Cold War got chiller, the Soviet Union saw once again a need for those units. By 1989, the Soviet naval infantry numbered over 18,000 troops. The Soviet Navy developed a massive amphibious assault capability, boasting over 80 landing ships. Once the Soviet Union broke apart, many of those units were downsized. Russian Marines were sent to Chechnya as the elite force, and as such they suffered heavy losses, but also acquired a lot of experience. After this, the Marines have fought in every Russian conflict, in Georgia, in Syria and in Ukraine. I would say that no other unit in the Russian army have this experience, except maybe some VDV units. Ukraine. 155th Guards Marine Brigade. In the far east of Russia lies the city of Vladivostok, the headquarters of the Russian Pacific Fleet. This fleet has not 1 but 2 naval infantry brigades. Let's first talk about the 155th Guards Marine Brigade from the village of Slavyanka in Primorsky Krai. The so-called Tigers were formed in December 1st, 2009, following the reorganization of the 55th Naval Infantry Division. Originally created in 1968, one of the division's first major deployments was during the First Chechen War. The 155th Marine Regiment was the first to be sent into the conflict, followed by the 106th Marine Regiment. Their mission? To fight in the difficult mountains of Chechnya. 63 infantrymen lost their lives in battle and 5 were honored with the prestigious title of Hero of the Russian Federation. In Syria, the 155th Brigade played a crucial role, providing support to the Naval Aviation Group. In 2022, the 155th Separate Naval Infantry Brigade was once again thrust into the battle, this time on the northern front line of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. The brigade suffered devastating losses in the Chernihiv and Kyiv regions, with Ukrainian journalist Roman Chumbaylyuk reporting over 600 killed and wounded. By March 19, 2022, reports indicated that elements of the 155th had been redeployed to Belarus to replenish their ranks after suffering heavy losses. In November of 2022, the brigade was facing near-daily casualties, particularly in the brutal battles around Pavlivka in Donetsk. In a desperate message to the Telegram channel of Russian Governor Oleg Kozhemyako, Marines described how they were sent into a reckless offensive under General Muradov. In just 4 days, around 300 soldiers were killed, wounded, or went missing. In February 2023, the brigade found itself embroiled in another devastating offensive, this time in Vuhledar. The Ukrainian forces destroyed nearly 30 Russian combat vehicles, including 13 tanks and 12 BMPs. The footage from this battle shows just how hard casualties has been on the unit. Looking at the tactics used, these have to be the new troops with very little experience or common sense. At the Battle of Vuhledar, it was claimed that the entire brigade of 5,000 men was obliterated. In 2024, the Marines were finally able to capture Vuhledar and some surrounding areas. In the autumn, they were redeployed to Kursk as Russia scrambled to contain the Ukrainian offensive. The 155th Separate Naval Infantry Brigade may be known in Russia for its military prowess, but its reputation in the West is one of failed soldiers and war criminals. In April 2022, as the Russian forces advanced on Kyiv, the 155th Brigade was accused of committing war crimes during the occupation of towns near the capital. One such town was Ivankiv. There, reports of executions, lootings, and other acts of brutality began to emerge. In March 2023, the brigade was named in a report by Reporters Without Borders regarding the murder of Ukrainian journalist Max Levin and his companion in the forest next to Ivankiv. When this unit was sent to fight against Ukrainians in Kursk, they showed even more brutality. In August 2024, members of the 155th Brigade were involved in the beheading of 4 Ukrainian soldiers. Their severed heads were displayed on poles next to the border guard station. In October 2024, the 155th Brigade made headlines for another disturbing act during an assault on Ukrainian positions in Russia's Kursk Oblast. Instead of capturing Ukrainian drone operators, the brigade's Marines executed them, shooting the men in cold blood after stripping them naked and forcing them to lie face down. After this, the Ukrainian paratroopers have started targeting these criminals with more and more strikes. As the casualties mount, this brigade needs to find more manpower. Lately, the 155th has attached to itself a new unit, the Tigr Battalion. This battalion was created on the initiative of Primorsky Krai as the replacement unit for the Marine Brigade. Looking at the footage of the Tigr Battalion, it seems that the recruits are almost all old men in their 50s to 60s. So, what I think is that this unit consists of the retirees of the Marine Brigade who discovered that the pay of 200,000 rubles can buy much more vodka than their 20,000 ruble pension. It's pretty difficult to call Marines an elite force if they keep hiring people out of the retirement homes. In the far northeast corner of Russia, we find another Marine Brigade of the Russian Pacific Fleet, the 40th Individual Guards Marine Infantry Brigade. A unit steeped in history, traces its origins back to 1918. The 40th Marine Brigade was first formed during the Russian Revolution as the 2nd Infantry Division. This division was made up of guerrilla fighters from across the Volga region, alongside 2 volunteer workers' units. By the end of 1919, it had become the 22nd Infantry Division, a key unit of the Red Army's Eastern Front. After the Civil War, the division moved to Krasnodar and was later assigned to the Far East in 1937, where it participated in the border conflicts with Japan. The division fought in the battles of Khalkhyn Gol and Lake Kazan. During World War II, the 22nd Division did not engage on the Eastern Front, but it did send thousands of soldiers to fight in the West. The division later played a key role in the Soviet invasion of Manchuria, contributing to Japan's defeat. Following World War II, the division underwent several transformations, eventually becoming the 22nd Motorized Infantry Division. As the Cold War loomed, it was stationed in Kamchatka and integrated into various army corps, adapting to new roles within the Soviet military structure. It was in 2007 when it became the 40th Marine Brigade. The brigade was deployed in the Russian invasion of Ukraine in 2022. On 25th of February, it was reported that a brigade tank company led by Ruslan Gurbanov was operating close to Hostomel airport. The brigade was also heavily involved in the brutal siege of Mariupol. In February 2023, the brigade, alongside with the 155th Marine Brigade, faced one of the largest tank battles of the war near Vuhledar. The battle proved catastrophic for the Russian forces, with the 40th Brigade suffering heavy losses, including the destruction of around 130 vehicles. The 40th and 155th Marine Brigades together endured over 2,100 casualties, almost 40% of their pre-war strength, leading to a significant blow to Russian naval infantry forces. Despite these losses, the 40th Brigade continued to serve on the front lines, playing a crucial role in the defense of Urozhine in 2023 and the Velika Novosilka offensive of 2024. By November 2024, the brigade, alongside with other units, took control of the settlement of Rozhdolne. At the same time, the units of the brigade were sent to Kursk to counter the Ukrainian offensive there. 61st Marine Brigade. After the fall of the Soviet Union, the Kremlin paid little attention to the Arctic. Now, however, the Russian government sees a lot of potential in taking its resources for the new Russian Empire. In its plans to control the Arctic, the 61st Guards Marine Infantry Brigade plays a central role. Based in Sputnik, Murmansk Oblast, and a part of the Russian Northern Fleet, this elite marine force has been trained and re-equipped for this task. Born in November 1941 as the 67th Naval Infantry Brigade, the 61st Brigade's roots trace back to fierce fighting on the Karelian front. On 20th of April 1943, the brigade was renamed the 61st Infantry Regiment and was assigned to the 45th Infantry Division. The regiment's first major successes came during the capture of Petsamo and the liberation of Kirkenes in Norway, for which it earned the honorary title of Kirkenes. After the war, the regiment was transformed in 1952 into a motorized assault regiment. But it wasn't until 1966 that the 61st truly took its place as core unit of the Soviet Navy, reactivated as the 61st Marine Regiment and later elevated to a brigade in 1979. By the mid-1990s, the 61st Brigade found itself thrust into the brutal battles of Chechnya. In 1995, they fought fiercely in the First Chechen War, and in 1999 to 2000, the brigade was again called to action in the Second Chechen War. In 2016, the 61st Brigade was selected to play a key role in Syria, assisting the Syrian army in capturing the city of Palmyra. Despite being one of the most experienced units, the brigade suffered many casualties, including its commander, Colonel Valery Fedyanin. Even before the full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, the 61st was active in the Donbas region, having been directly involved in combat in Luhansk as early as 2014. Bellingcat's investigation confirmed their presence in the region, where they were seen operating new weaponry like the 2S-23 Nona SVK anti-tank mortar. The brigade was also involved in the 2022 invasion, with elements sent to the Black Sea as part of Russia's naval task force. On 7th of March 2022, one of their brigade's battalion commanders, Lieutenant Colonel Dmitry Safronov, was killed in action near Kharkiv. By the end of 2024, the 61st Brigade was engaged in heavy combat in the southern front of Ukraine, specifically around Kherson. The battles for control of islands in the Dnipro River have marked some of the fiercest fighting for this unit. This has been the introduction of some of the Russian naval infantry units to you, but there are more units with more history and specific stories, especially connected to the war in Ukraine going on right now. I'll bring that to you in the next video. In the meantime, please do subscribe to the channel to be notified about the part 2 of this video. There are many more Russian naval infantry units, some of them wiped out completely in Ukraine. I want to bring you their stories. Until that video, my friends, subscribe, and as always, Slava Ukraini, and bye-bye.